He now faces firing and loss of his teaching certificate in Arizona. Will he ever coach again? Should he ever coach again?
If I was a hiring entity at a school or a district, he absolutely would never be even looked at for future employment. We are required as employees or employers that we do background checks, and obviously that we have quite a bit of information that has been national, local and national, that there's information out there to know that, okay, this is what's gone on with this individual. And really, a lot of these schools and districts do a lot of background checks because we can't afford to make poor hires in a situation where there was something that was from another district or another school. So that is a high priority with hiring process.
It seems like the certification issue is really important so that people can check that database and see
yes.
It was
Yes, and when you lose a certificate, that's known out there. You can research that information and get that information. We as an association or as a school or school district would not ever proactively throw that out to districts. That's not also on our end not the right thing to do, regardless of what we think. But if a lot of times we're called, school districts are called, hey, this was an employee of yours because they need to list where they were at. You have to be very careful of what you do say. But one thing that you could say is they would not ever be hired here again.
Is he basically out of the business? When we look at what's on the internet right now, what will likely be on the database here, what is schools likely to say, can this guy ever find a job again?
I think it would be very hard to find a job with the internet the way it is today. Could a school or school district not do their homework that was not aware of it? Possibly, but again, I think it would be highly unlikely, and especially anywhere in Arizona because of the attention it's gotten. And we will continue to bring this forward in meetings and conferences.
Start with Seattle. What was the reaction in the rooms there to this story?
Well, because this broke while we were there, I did bring it up, and the really was, you've got to be kidding, was more of the reaction. Not anything that they had seen before coming from any of their schools, and these are the directors that we deal with a lot of the same issues across the country, but they had never come across this one. Not at all.
Were you talking to people, your peers, about how to handle this kind of thing, how they might handle it?
We always talk, with each other at times. So what'd you do in the situation? What kind of information did you get? And so with this, because it was so unusual, there was not necessarily a lot of expertise in how to handle a situation that they haven't really dealt with before.
Tell us what the next steps are here at the AIA for dealing with this.
So again, we got information from the Tempe district. So our process is when we get information, then we will share it with any school that has been mentioned or a part of this issue. So we've reached out to all the schools that we saw had emails to, and asked them, here's the information we have. You please need to do an investigation on your campus, and you need to report back to the staff so that we can bring that back to our board. If there is a violation by a school, then you need to bring that forward with your corrective action. If there is no violation, please give us a report on how you went through the process of investigating this.
When the AIA says to the schools, you need to do an investigation, do you have the power of, kind of a cop to say you've got to do this?
Yes. Yes, if we ask for that, then they are required to get back to us. And then, and at that point, the board can look at the information that they've presented to the board. At that point, they can make a determination if there is a penalty or if they may accept the report as written.
How many schools was this, or school districts was this?
We have about eight schools in Arizona.
What kind of violations would they be looking for?
Well, we have in our coaches coaching section of our bylaws, we have the practice of a level playing field, that you would not engage in any activity that would be detrimental to the level playing field or the integrity of the game itself.
I was looking at that last night, 17.436, demonstrate high ideals, good habits, and desirable attitudes. Is that the one right there?
That's the one that we would look at, and again, depending on the information that they receive. So we have the information that most everybody has from the Tempe district of things that they did their computer searches on who this gentleman had communicated with. What we did not have is, was there any response to that email? And meaning, was there a reply back, or what took place? We have nothing that shows a conversation back and forth between coaches. So that's when we go to the school. What can you tell us?
Is that kind of the trigger here?
Well,
In other words, so if he just sent this to you as Mesa Mountain View AD or coach, and you just looked at it and did nothing.
Correct. Now, what we would hope is, in a situation like that, that a coach and administrator could communicate that if it's referencing a sister school, a association school, that we would notify them that, hey, I don't know what this is. This doesn't make any sense, but you need to know we're getting some information that's coming representing your school, and we've got a problem. We're not going to do anything with this, but please notify. We would hope that has happened. I have communicated with a couple of schools in preliminary discussions. Reports are coming, but in fact, that did take place.
That did take place. When did it take place?
Last year.
By which school?
I'm not at liberty yet to say that.
Well, you may or not know, Pinnacle, the Paradise Valley School District, shared with us about 7 emails, or at least summaries of 7 emails, and said Coach Zubke, or somebody at the district, sent on August 31st, informed Mountain Pointe.
I'm not aware of that one yet. I haven't received any other reports.
So it's not Paradise Valley.
It's not Paradise Valley.
There's another school district that did inform.
The coaches communicated to each other. The coach in question, the school that received it, actually felt that they may have someone from the inside on their side, and communicated to Rich Welbrock. And Rich in turn said, I think I have a problem on our staff, and they communicated with each other. But that was about the extent of the conversation at that time, from what I understand.
Was that before Tempe Union began their investigation?
Yes.
Okay, because the PV case was after.
No, this was before. This was last year.
Last year. And it appears Welbrock knew there was something going on.
Something was going on. They just couldn't put their finger on it.
So this is an interesting question, because this is what a lot of parents, children are wondering. Why did nobody say anything until a Vegas coach told Welbrock, you got a problem here?
I think that there was some knowledge that something was going on. I don't think that they had all the background information that actually came out from the coach of Faith Lutheran in Vegas that gave some specific information to them that they were able to go back and check.
What does it tell you that it really took a Vegas coach and not a coach here to tell Tempe, to tell Mountain Pointe, you've got a problem.
That's a frustrating thing. Again, the ethical nature of what we do. We're high school athletics. We're education-based. We want to be successful. We want kids to do well. But when 95% of our kids are not playing at the next level, what is the purpose that we are at the Arizona Interscholastic Association, which we have 274 schools that are members that create their own rules? That if we have rules, let's hold everybody accountable to our rules. And that's the point that we're trying to reach out.
What would you have done at Mason as the AD there if a coach brought this to you?
If a coach brought that, we'd immediately call the other school, especially if the coach is going to look at, I don't even know who this is. I don't want to get caught up in the middle of this. We would communicate as a former AD, whether it was a transfer, whether there was a situation that was going on. We felt like we owed that school. I would want to know if something was going on our campus. I would hope that someone would communicate to me so that we could get to the bottom of it. We can't correct the situation if everybody's keeping it in the dark.
And we have the case of Chandler High, where the coach said he passed it on to his AD and his principal, and the principal told us on camera, we talked about it, coach said it wasn't credible, we deleted it.
We would hope that there was communication. We would like to be able to communicate. I think what we need to do, we need to be above everything else. As coaches, as administrators, we have to look from the 30,000 foot level to say, look at, man, let's help each other out. We're going to be competitors, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to hold people accountable. And I think we really, it's part of society today. Everybody seems to want what they want, despite what the rules are, and it's an issue that we deal with.
Was that the proper response to just hit delete and leave it at that and move on?
Well, again, it depends on what people, we don't have a rule that affects directly that. Meaning if you get something, the hope would be that we're going to take care of it. But we also have 50 new ADs a year. We have new administrators every year.
This is Chandler High School. They know what they're doing. They're at the peak of the high school game.
I agree. You would hope that they would do that. And again, I haven't received their report, but if there is no conversation back and forth, even though I think we should communicate with the other school, that would not be considered any violation under our bylaw.
That's the line right there. Not necessarily that they didn't report it, but that they didn't take the extra step of communicating with the person who sent the email?
That would be more egregious in the mind of our rules.
More egregious. So there's one school that did that.
That I know of yet.
Perry High, we're aware of, right? Because there were hundreds of emails
Correct.
sent out, and all we as the media saw, and I think Tempe Union saw, were about 16.
Correct. And so honestly, what I have to go on, what we as a staff through our executive board is we have to go on the facts of which we have. And the facts that I have are these 15, 16 emails that went out. What we are relying on is our schools. That is the system in which we work in. We are a self-reporting system. However, if you do not report something that has gone on, a violation or some situation, then we also have in our system a non-reported violation. That is more concerning and the penalty is elevated.
But the reality is, how do you know? How do you know they're telling the truth?
We don't. And that's what's really challenging for us as an association. We may assume, we may think something more has gone on, but again, I have to, as the executive director, deal with facts. If you have an email that you can send to me that would show coaches going back and forth, we would take that and respond to that on an expeditious type setting. We do have to rely on the facts of the case. We deal with all the time that information has come. I think they're doing this, I think they're doing that, but they come in as anonymous. We cannot verify that that is accurate. If we cannot verify that, I can't go accuse a school, a coach, a program on something that I don't have facts on.
What could the penalty be for a violation here?
We have 3. Advisement is the lowest level. Basically, that is, yes, we have a violation. We have a corrective action. We were not aware of this, and we're going to send in this report. Typically, the board would put the school on advisement, which means you've done what we've asked you to do. Please don't let it happen again. If a situation like that did happen again, it could move to warning. Warning is the second phase of our penalties, which means you are not eligible for some awards that we have in our system, overall excellence, and some things like that, recognitions. And again, warning is a little more ramped up than just advisement. And our third phase is a probation, where a program is not eligible for postseason play.
That's a pretty heavy penalty.
Pretty heavy penalty.
Do you think any of this might warrant a probation even?
Of the information that I'm aware of right now, I don't see it going to probation. If I got any additional information, then again, the board would make that determination.
Just going back to that Perry case, we know the coach there, Preston Jones, responded. We know one response. We have no idea what Walter Payton 12 said in return or whether that went any farther.
Correct. I don't have, and their report is coming. I know that a lot of these schools did their own computer checks, and I think that's really important information to be included in their investigation of what did or did not go back and forth from those computers.
Is there a deadline for their reports?
Not a deadline, but we asked for them to, as quick as possible, get that. So we are starting to receive those. I believe we got one last night, and we have others that are coming in the next couple days. Really, if anything that did come in, those would be discussed at our October board meeting.
I looked at your bylaws, and reading the bylaws, you take ethics very seriously. Adhere to high ideals of sportsmanship, demonstrate high ideals, good habits, desirable attitudes. Even in your IRS filing, this is your mission statement: create and sustain an ethical culture. Does this tell us that so few people learn at Mountain Pointe that ethical culture might be lost?
We are constantly, Brahm, you bring up a great point. It is a point of emphasis at our athletic director meetings, our coaches meetings, that we all have to be in this together. And there's a lot of things going on in our society today. We have an open enrollment state where you have the opportunity to go to the school of your choice. However, in the world of athletics and activities, these are privileges, not rights. And so with a privilege, comes with it a set of rules. As a member, and as you just are asking, as our association, we have the association makes its own rules. So the AI staff gets absolutely no vote in any rule. We manage the rules that the membership put into place. If we are not following a rule and we're not going to hold people accountable, then why do we have that rule? And if we do have the rule, the responsibility should be we're going to honor that rule. And that's the biggest challenge, honestly, that we deal with. And part of that is because we have a turnover of coaches and a turnover of athletic directors that do not necessarily have all the history or all the experience in all these cases to know what to do. They're trying to learn on the fly. And so it's a challenge.
Is it more than that? You mentioned 5% of the kids playing today will get scholarships.
Correct.
Are they the ones who these games are all designed for? Are they the ones who the coaches cater to, because what I hear from people who cover this very closely is open enrollment, this is a very high-level competition. This is intense competition. Coaches will do whatever they think they need to do to win.
Well, I do think it's very competitive, and there are a percentage of these kids that do move from school to school based on what they feel their opportunity is to get a scholarship. I do believe after many, many years that this is a culture that is created, could be within the school, however, more likely it is done by the community. Parents that are club people, they play with different kids from different schools, and all of a sudden they get together and say, hey, you know, if we all stick together and go to this school, we can be very successful. Or the parents are also very savvy that if they feel like their kid deserves an opportunity for a scholarship and we can go to this school, A, B, or C, because they're in the playoffs year after year, I will be seen. And so I think it's bigger than just the school and the coaches. This is our entire communities.
So you're saying the coaches really have no control over the parents or the players?
They do have control if they're going to assert themselves. And sometimes if they're going to assert themselves, because we do.
But if they want that big recruit,
and again, I have no facts to verify that, but people certainly could wonder, how do they always get a majority of the kids?
and why don't they tell another coach that we think you have a mole?
Correct.
That's a pretty tough question.
It is a very tough question.
It must be really disappointing for you, having spent your life in this.
I have spent my life, and I spend it now where I don't have anything at stake. Meaning, my kids aren't playing anymore. I'm not overseeing a school. I'm trying to work with an entire state of 310,000 kids that compete at our level. Guys, we have to be above just winning at all costs. And sometimes when coaches get in situations, they get wrapped up in being successful, and in some cases there may be rules that are skirted. Unfortunately for me, I don't necessarily get that information to be even able to pursue it. We would love to have, if somebody knew something, let us know. In this day of social media, we do get a lot of things that we do address issues, and there have been violations based on social media. You know, they'll post, hey, this is what we're doing today, and we look at it and go, you can't do that. Yeah. And we go back to the school, and the school goes, yes, we have a violation.
Are you saying it's largely the schools and the coaches running this organization, and this organization, which outsiders might think polices
we police
high school sports, is really does only what the people it works for say it can do?
Well, part of that is correct. We manage the rules that we have, and I can't create a new rule unless we go through our board. And there are situations that if something is coming up, the executive board has the ability to say, you know what, this is an issue, we're going to change our rule. And we've done that with transfers, and we've done that with prior contact, which was something we went through in a year ago, where coaches are moving from place to place and kids are following. And so we had to broaden that rule because people were trying to work it any other way that they could kind of skirt the rule.
So I'm going to ask you to put on your AD jersey again. Okay. And there are a lot of angry, upset parents, students, student athletes right now at Mountain Pointe and probably at other schools who are just wondering, you know, is this game fair? Correct. You know, how could this happen to me? So be the AD. What do you say to them? Well,
and again, what I would say is we can control what we can control. meaning at our school, we're going to do everything that we possibly can to hold our people to the highest level. Now, if I find out something's going on, if our people aren't doing that, I'm going to address our people. Guys, here's the things that have gone on. Here's what we need to behave like. This is our purpose. This is why we exist, to create, an ethical and level playing field.